Om Shri Sai Ram. Humble prostrations at the divine lotus feet of our beloved Master, Bhagavan Shri Sathya Sai Baba. Gita Vahini, Chapter 14. Objective and Integral Knowledge. Introduction to Brahman, Supreme Spirit, Action, the Material Creation, Tutelary Deities, and the Lord of Sacrifice. The meaning of Brahman. Brahman as existence, knowledge, bliss. Summary. Wisdom is of two kinds: objective knowledge or Vishaya Jnana and integral spiritual knowledge, Abheda Jnana. The first type is knowledge of the world. The second is knowledge of the identity of Brahman and the individual Atma, which is called undifferentiated or integral wisdom, Abheda Jnana. This wisdom is not a function of the intellect or buddhi, so it is called the right wisdom or Samyak Jnana, the nearest wisdom, Samipa Jnana. There are two paths by which people can approach this integral knowledge, the inner path and the outer. The outer spiritual discipline is engagement in activity without attachment, Nishkama Karma, dedicating the result of activities to the Lord. The inner spiritual discipline is meditation and total absorption or Samadhi. This is the goal of all life, knowing the highest Atma, attaining liberation. There can be no second aim for people. Whoever does spiritual practice after attaching himself to me with a view to liberate himself from old age and senility will know all that there is to be known of Brahman, Karma and Atma. Serve the master of the delusion, the designer of all this dreamland, rather than the dream itself. The source of all types of sorrow is ignorance. It is identification with the body, the delusion that you are the body. This can be removed only by acquisition of right knowledge. To remove darkness, light is needed. When ignorance goes, grief goes also. So attach yourself to me, earn the light of true knowledge, and tread the path of no grief. Brahman is referred to as the imperishable, Akshara, that is the highest, Para Brahman. Akshara means without destruction or indestructible. The goal of humanity is to attain that Brahman. Brahman is the Tat entity. The individual soul is the this thou, that is Tvam entity. Brahman is the form, the individual soul, the substance. You are the eternal Sat, the Atma, the entity that has no death. You are also consciousness, Chit, the force that urges you on to know about everything. You are also bliss. Bliss is your very personality. You are Sat, Chit, Ananda. You are fundamentally happy-natured. The above three, being, awareness and bliss, we see in every being as the very core of its very existence, as its reality itself. So, it is the Lord Himself who has assumed the pose of individuality and plays as an individual in that role. Key takeaways from this chapter. First, it is interesting how Abheda Jnana or integral wisdom is not a function of the intellect and is equally available to all, irrespective of one's individual intellectual capacity. Outward living with detachment and inward stilling of the mind and contemplation of God can help one realize this wisdom. While specific subject study can give us objective knowledge, one could say just living life correctly is the greatest tool to acquire this integral wisdom. Second, one sometimes thinks that acquisition of knowledge, better living conditions, creation of progeny, or even nobler ventures like service to society are the goal of life. But both Krishna and Swami make it explicitly clear that the full realization of ourselves as the indestructible, liberated Brahman is the sole, true purpose of life. Let us use the sattvic tools of good qualities, good habits, service to society, devotion and meditation as tools to help us attain this one true goal. Third, the compression of Sat Chit Ananda manifests into an individual and takes the shape of a living being, eager to know all that there is and constantly seeking happiness. This deluded being then misinterprets these fundamental traits to seek more individual pleasure and avoid pain, to distortedly and vainly attempt to fulfill itself. If the individual instead expanded these traits rather than individually limit them, then the highest realization, which was always present, would reveal itself. Fourth, that happiness is our fundamental nature is beautifully represented by eternal desire to have it. And when grief and turmoil settles, there is always an innate longing to return to the default equilibrium state of happiness. Let us therefore search for that spring of eternal happiness within us, undisturbed by external events, unscathed by fulfillment or otherwise of desires, and that needs no reason to reflect its natural, blissful state. End of chapter 14. Jai Sai Ram.